So yes, this morning I was able to try to access the video system, which we weren't able to do yesterday because we were physically here at the court. I was added very briefly to the waiting room so I could see that the link did in fact work, and then I was removed with no explanation given and could not log back in. So Reporters Without Borders has clearly been banned access to the cloud video platform as well, which means that, like the other NGOs, I mean this has happened to Amnesty International, PAN International, other NGOs with a legitimate mandate to monitor trials as well. Clearly this is the court signaling that we are not welcome specifically in these proceedings. We're left to fight for these very few spaces in the public gallery, which should not be the case because the public also have the right to monitor this hearing, and this should be handled in a much different way, as it is in every other country where we attempt to monitor trials.
So what happened today?
So today I was able to get in physically to the afternoon session, but only because an activist who had been queuing for many hours this morning was kind enough to give me his seat, and we appreciated that. What we're trying to do is really to use our international platform to call attention to this case, just even this week, the ongoing due process violations, and more importantly, the broader reason that we believe Mr. Assange has been targeted, which is for his contributions to public interest reporting. There was a really good comment today from Professor Feldstein in his testimony. He said, to criminalize news gathering, to criminalize publishing is to criminalize journalism itself, and that is what is at stake here. He also said that he believes that the US government's indictment here has the US news media square in its sight. So this is, yes, it's about Julian Assange, it's about the injustice here, and it is about his case, but it's also about journalism, it's also about press freedom. And so our persistence in trying to get into this trial is that's precisely why. It's the emblematic quality of this case. It's also trying to hold our own governments to account for their behaviors. This is something that's hard for many people to believe in this case, is that our governments, our democracies can engage in such behavior, that this is in effect a political prosecution of somebody by states that are meant to abide by the rule of law, states that are meant to uphold these principles, human rights and freedom of expression. So that's what's at stake here, and I think that was a powerful signal that an activist who's so committed from the cause was happy for us to go into the courtroom, and we've heard from other journalists here as well that haven't been able to gain access that we are their eyes and ears, but we can't even do that effectively when we can't systematically be present. At the moment, only the accredited news media that have either physical access to the courtroom, which is very few journalists, or those who are able to sustain access to this cloud video platform, they're the only ones who know what's happening. So the rest of us are reliant on whether we can physically get in for a few hours here or there. And then the news reports, that's not sufficient for open justice. That is a violation of Julian Assange's right to a fair trial, and it's a violation of the public's right to know. The public has a right to know what's happening here in the Old Bailey and what's happening in this case, because the implications are chilling. The public will have less information in the public interest, like that WikiLeaks has exposed in the publication of this leaked information. We will be less informed, less able to hold our own governments to account. So it is not just his rights here, but the public's rights, and that's really important to remember.
You touched upon, it's hard for people to believe that there's a political prisoner in the UK. I mean, would you have imagined this 10 years ago, a journalist being a political prisoner in the UK?
It's something that I never thought I would see. I'm a dual US-UK national, and it's something I hoped I would never see in my own countries. I've worked in much more repressive parts of the world, properly authoritarian regimes, and I also, it is with a heavy heart that we have to take up a case like this and say these things about our own governments, because we should and must do better. So at the bare minimum, I want our governments, the UK and the US, to know that we are watching this closely, that we will continue to speak out. We will speak out if we are barred access. We will get in when we can, and not just this next few weeks at this court, but we will stick with this case because I really do believe it will have historical implications for journalism and for press freedom. The implications of this will be felt for years to come. So there's still an opportunity for that to be a positive precedent rather than a negative one. But unfortunately, the direction it seems to be given at the moment, it feels like there are many irregularities in this case. It's certainly the most difficult that I have ever had, the most difficulty I've ever had in accessing judicial proceedings in any case, and it feels like things are stacked against him.
It felt like the defense was stuck with 30 minutes interviewing Professor Feldstein, but the prosecution took about an hour and then was using leading and hypothetical questions to entrap him in yes or no answers, and then complained when the defense was asking a question that they thought was leading. Do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, it was a lengthy questioning process, that's for sure, and a lot of the points, about half of that I would say, was them trying to deviate to distract from the political nature of I guess his categorization of this as a political persecution, right? But even the questioning suggested a political motive on their behalf. There was one point which actually twice Mr. Lewis, on behalf of the US government, referred to Mr. Feldstein's diatribe against President Trump becoming odious. And even that language is very charged and very, I would say, political language. At several stages, Mr. Feldstein offered to speak more to his belief as to why this is a political prosecution, and he wasn't given that opportunity. He also proactively wanted to speak more about the press freedom environment in the US, in particular President Trump's vitriol, as he put it, towards the press, and wasn't able to speak further on that. But those are assessments that we would share as Reporters Without Borders. We're very concerned about the broader press freedom environment in the United States, which is now ranked 45th out of 180 countries in our World Press Freedom Index. That is far, insufficient for the country of the First Amendment. And we also would assess this prosecution as politically motivated, which I don't believe that today that Mr. Feldstein was given the adequate chance to explain why he believed that to be the case. But I thought he withstood the questioning well, and I hope it will be a positive contribution towards Julian Assange's defense.